honored to be invited to deliver the keynote address for this special Regional Energy Cooperation Summit, focused on unleashing energy, oil, and gas potential in West Africa and beyond. On behalf of the management and board of directors of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, and on my own behalf, I welcome you to the beautiful and peaceful city of Accra, capital of Ghana. My address on the topic, Private Sector Participation, PSP, in ECG, will be situated within the context of the broader theme of the summit, which appropriately explores the critical issue of anchor projects for regional and energy development and industrialization. The theme for the summit is appropriate and timely against the backdrop that Ghana is poised to change the structure of our economy through an ambitious industrialization program. Your selection of Ghana as a host country for this year's Regional Energy Summit gives us, in ECG, a sense of ownership because of the great transformation that the energy sector in Ghana is experiencing in terms of the provision of infrastructure and structural reforms towards improvement in reliability of power supply to meet domestic and international needs. The power sector reforms introduced in Ghana in 1994 led to the unbundling of generation and transmission functions and the establishment of the technical and commercial regulators, namely the Energy Commission and Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. The reforms created the enabling environment for the emergence of independent power producers, mainly in thermal generation. Ghana's power sector reforms has entered a critical phase where the private sector is entering the distribution sector. This is happening at a time when ECG has rendered 50 years of meritorious service as an electricity distribution utility in Ghana and the West Africa sub-region. Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, looking back over the past 50 years, I believe we can be happy of ECG's modest achievements in supporting the economic growth and development of Ghana in particular, and the West Africa sub-region as a whole, through the provision of quality, safe, and reliable electricity services in fulfillment of our mandate. From humble beginnings in 1967, with a customer base of 81,430, ECG currently serves nearly 4 million customers, constituting approximately 90% access rate in its service territory. 50 years ago, we operated 10 bulk supply points. Today, we have 29 bulk supply points. Back then, we had 24 primary substations, and at present, we have 103 primary substations. Secondary substations were 1,200. Then, as against 21,000 substations today. 50 years ago, ECG had a total of 30 circuit kilometers of distribution network, which has expanded to 105,000 circuit kilometers of low voltage and medium voltage distribution networks, and delivering over 12,000 gigawatt hours of energy annually. ECG now employs 6,500 people directly and offers in excess of 100,000 indirect jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, ECG's first-class training center has trained more than 4,000 of its personnel in various skills necessary for the company's operations. The center also trains utility service staff from the military, hospitals, factories, our sister companies, Gridco and Nedco, as well as engineers from the West Africa sub-region, notably Sierra Leone and Liberia. Recently, on the recommendation of the World Bank, engineers from Afghanistan were attached to our engineering department to sharpen their skills in system planning and design. During the same period, the Rwandan Electricity Board and the Malawian Ministry of Natural Resources, Energy and Mining came to ECG to learn about best practices and strategies for mass electrification projects such as the Ghana Self-Help Electrification Program. So for 50 years, ECG continues to bring smiles to many homes and communities in Ghana and the Republic of Togo who turn the lights on for the first time in their lifetime, and has also kept the wheels of industry running in Ghana. I wish to assure investors that the ECG is fully prepared to support Government of Ghana's flagship industrialization agenda. Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, after half a century in the electricity distribution business, ECG is now entering a new era of private sector participation, which started in 1994 and given further impetus under the Compact 2 program signed between the Millennium Challenge Corporation, MCC, and the government of Ghana for a grant of $498 million US. The funds are focused exclusively for investment primarily in the distribution segment of the power sector. Private sector participation in electricity distribution has already been implemented in different forms in West Africa, particularly in Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and now in Ghana. The objective for introducing private sector participation in Ghana in ECG is to achieve the following: improved performance in the delivery of electricity services to be measured by specific key performance indicators, mobilization of private investment, fostering of local private participation both in the capital of the utility as outsourcing subcontractors, and increase in competition in the ECG service area in line with the development and consolidation of the utility through liberalization of the energy market. To realize these objectives, 6 major projects are being implemented with the Compact funds. These include the ECG Financial and Operational Turnaround Project, popularly referred to as EFFORT, which also has 5 major activities, namely private sector participation in ECG, modernizing utility operations, reduction in commercial losses and improvement of revenue collection rates, technical loss reduction, and outage reduction. The EFFORT activities have been grouped into 2 components: foundational projects and private sector participation in ECG. The foundational projects have been designed to modernize ECG's operations and introduce efficiency in its business processes and ultimately improve customer service delivery and its financial viability. The other component, private sector participation in ECG, is bringing in a private investor to operate, manage, and invest in ECG for a period of 20 years as a concessionaire. In procuring the concessionaire, the government of Ghana laid 3 conditions to underpin the PSP transactions. First, that there should be employment guarantee for all ECG staff. That is, no involuntary redundancies. Second, that the tenure of the concession is 20 years. And thirdly, that in line with the government's local content policy, local Ghanaian equity participation should be at least 51%. Following the bidding process to select the private investor, Bijes Miracle Consortium and their Ghanaian partners emerged as the preferred bidder. Subsequently, the consortium formed a special purpose vehicle company called Power Distribution Services Ghana Limited, PDS, to manage, operate, and invest in the ECG distribution business for the next 20 years. Subsequently, 3 transaction agreements were signed between the government of Ghana, ECG, and PDS, namely the lease and assignment and bulk supply agreements, which were signed between ECG and PDS, whereas the government of Ghana and PDS signed the government support agreement. The natural question to ask is, if a concessionaire is coming to take over the main business of ECG, which is operation, maintenance, investment in the distribution networks, what then becomes of ECG? Under the transaction, the distribution landscape in Ghana will change. ECG will operate as an asset owner, while the concessionaire will be responsible for network operations and investment. So ECG will continue to exist. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, given the change in the business environment, ECG will operate with a new focus as a dynamic and formidable market player in the electricity industry, both locally and in the West Africa region. In other words, ECG will still be relevant to the power industry in Ghana and the West Africa sub-region. ECG's primary role, as defined in the transaction agreements, will be that of a bulk energy trader, responsible asset owner, and a training services provider. The bulk agreement requires that ECG will sell energy to meet the requirements of PDS, or the concessionaire, after which ECG will identify domestic and export markets to sell the surplus energy. As a responsible assets owner, ECG will monitor the operations of the concessionaire in accordance with a set of agreed monitoring protocols. Furthermore, the training center will provide capacity building services to equip distribution utilities in Ghana and other West African countries and beyond with the requisite knowledge and skills necessary to run a modern utility. ECG will also leverage on its 50 years of experience and the huge intellectual capital at its disposal to provide consultancy services to support anyone who will need their services. In addition to this defined portfolio, the restructured ECG will also lead the way into modern, non-traditional electricity businesses in response to global trends in the energy sector. Ladies and gentlemen, all over the world, the energy industry is going through a transition which is leading to significant disruption of the traditional utility business model of generation, transmission, and distribution. The key drivers of the changes in the sector are market liberalization, technological advancements, digitalization, climate change, and sophisticated customer behavior. The influence of these factors is impacting the sector from all directions. From the supply side, intense competition between fossil fuels and renewable energy is raging fiercely, as is a question of centralized versus decentralized distributed generation. Due to the intermittency of renewable energy, storage has assumed a strategic position. On the demand side, introduction of energy-efficient electrical appliances, smart technologies, and e-mobility revolution have started challenging the business models of traditional utilities. The combined power of these disruptive forces on the traditional business model or power sector cannot be overemphasized. The inevitable result of these unrelenting global trends in our industry is the emergence of new business models, fierce competition from new entrants, and the call on the traditional utility companies to accept the need for transformation as a global verdict. Honorable Ministers and ladies and gentlemen, in view of this undeniable global verdict, the restructured ECG or the new ECG will also venture into other futuristic businesses such as providing services for electric car battery charging and powering of electric trains. There are no electric trains in Ghana at the moment. We look to see that in the future, and probably in other West African countries. The massive investments in rail infrastructure by various West African governments present huge investment opportunities along the energy value chain. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, in bringing my address to a close, I wish to make some business propositions which I trust will engage our attention during this summit and beyond. First, The existing business model for entering into power purchase agreements, PPAs, by individual countries should be well coordinated by regional institutions like WAP and ELERA. This would ensure that countries do not entrap themselves in excess capacity payments. In this regard, it makes sound economic judgment for countries with power deficit in the region to trade with those with surplus capacity. Related to this business proposition is the need for private capital in developing transmission lines to overcome interconnecting transmission bottlenecks. Finally, I want to appeal to all West African countries and indeed investors to adopt an end-to-end electrification solution where residential and non-residential end users are factored into packaging of generation projects. With an average electricity access rate of less than 40% in West Africa, according to the USA report of June 2018, countries in the region must take the issue of access to electricity by their citizens as a very serious developmental challenge. In conclusion, I'm hopeful that we can look forward to the future with optimism. I wish to take this opportunity to assure all stakeholders that the introduction of a private sector participant in ECG distribution business, ECG will be restructured and repositioned with a new focus. Contrary to the view that is held out there, ECG has not been sold. ECG is still existing and will continue to exist, but with a new focus. As we deliberate at this important summit over the next 3 days, let us not lower the heights of our expectations. I welcome all participants to embrace the challenges of the new global realities and commit to lifting up the energy industry in West Africa to enable it anchor projects for regional energy development and industrialization, as optimized in the theme of this regional cooperation summit.